My name is Pattie Lamb. I have been weaving for over 30 years. I am also a spinner, and I teach weaving for my guild, the Triangle Weavers Guild, at our Fiber Arts Center in Durham, North Carolina. This is my studio, which is in my home. This is my favorite place in the world, and I spend some time here every single day. In my studio, I have a spinning corner and 3 looms that I do most of my work on. The Shacked Baby Wolf is where I weave most of my scarves. The Louette Spring Loom is usually used for towels and shawls, and the Toika Computer Loom is used for long warps and 12 and 16 harness weaves. The first part of a project is the planning. This involves selecting yarns, doing yarn wraps, creating a weaving draft, doing calculations, and weaving samples. I wind my warps on either a warping board or a warping mill. Here I am winding a warp for a shawl. I measured 4 warp chains with a total of 568 individual threads. When I'm finished measuring the warp, I place several security ties to keep the threads in order, and I chain the warp off and take it to the loom. The warp chains are laid across the front beam in order. At the back of the loom, I spread the warp in the rattle, a wooden board with nails spaced 1/2 inch apart. The warp for the blue shawl was 21 inches wide. At the front of the loom, I place weights on each warp chain and then I wind the warp onto the warp beam at the back of the loom. Each thread in the warp is threaded through the eye of a heddle on one of the harnesses of the loom. Which harness is determined by the pattern. When weaving begins, harnesses will be lifted in different combinations as they weave. This shawl required 8 harnesses.
Show us how brightly your flowers grow, that have beauty and no perfume. Come, here's the rose with 100 dyes, the lily that hath no spot, the violet deep as your true love's eyes, and the little forget-me-not. Weave, brothers, weave. We brothers weave and sing. 'Tis good both to sing and to weave. 'Tis better to work than live idle. 'Tis better to sing than to grieve. 'Tis better to work than live idle. 'Tis better to work than.
When I finish threading each bout of warp ends, I check my work.
'Tis better to sing than to weave. 'Tis better to sing than to grieve. 'Tis better to sing than to grieve. To grieve, to grieve. Weave, brothers, weave.
Next, each warp thread is threaded through the reed, which spaces the threads out evenly and maintains the correct weaving width. For this shawl project, 2 threads go through every space in the reed.
There's yellow corn in yonder fields, and the autumn brings a shearing. Singing, bonny lassie, will ye gang and shear with me the whole day long, and love will cheer us as we gang when we join that band of shearers. And if the thistle it be strong that it would hurt your milk-white hand, it's with my hook I'll cut it down when we join that band of shearers. And if the weather it be hot, then I'll cast off my vest and coat, and we'll count our thraves among you lot when we join that band of shearers. And when the shearing is on.
The warp is tied in small bundles to the apron rod.
Oh, as I roved out one moonlit night, the stars were shining and all things bright. I spied a pretty maid by the light of the moon, and under her apron she carried a loom. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. Right whack, follow do it, I do day. Tooraloo-ra-loo-ra-lay. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. She says, young man, what trade do you bear? Says, I am a weaver, I do declare. I am a weaver, brisk and free. Would you weave upon my loom, kind sir? Said she to me, right whack, follow do it, I do day. Right whack, follow do it, I do day. Tooraloo-ra-loo-ra-lay. To me, right whack, follow do it, I do day.
After tension is evened up, a second security tie is added to each bundle.
There was Nancy Wright and Nancy Bill. For them I wove a diamond twill. Nancy Blue and Nancy Brown. For them I wove the rose and the crown. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. Right whack, follow do it, I do day. Tooraloo-ra-loo-ra-lay. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. So I laid her down upon the grass. I braced her loom both tight and fast. And for to finish it with a joke, I topped it off with a double stroke. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. Right whack, follow do it, I do day. Tooraloo-ra-loo-ra-lay. To me right whack, follow do it, I do day. To me right whack.
Next, I tie up the treadles under the loom. Each treadle will lift a different combination of harnesses to create my pattern. On this loom, this requires sitting on the floor and attaching a cord from each harness to every treadle. This pattern required 8 treadles, 8 ties per treadle, a total of 64 ties. Next, I wind the bobbins for my shuttles, and I am ready to weave. The weaving itself is usually very meditative. It can proceed relatively quickly or can be very slow, depending on how many times the shuttle has to be thrown for every inch of cloth, how complex the pattern is, and how many shuttles are used.
I strayed to good old Georgia, made it my happy home. I visited many a merry scene. It's been my pleasant do. None has such charms as when I saw sweet Becky at the moon. I cannot help from thinking, no matter what I do, of the happy moments when I saw sweet Becky at the moon. I watched her taper fingers as they danced in my wall, and shot the little shuttle as though it could not be caught. A quill would soon be empty, as you may well presume. It was a happy sight to see sweet Becky at the moon. I cannot help from thinking, no matter what I do, of the happy moments when I saw sweet Becky at the moon. A naughty thread perchance would break, but not a word she said. But gently tie a little knot and put it through the sling. The shuttle necks were drawn, and with color her face would bloom. It sure was a bewitching sight, sweet Becky at the moon. I cannot help from strayed to good old Georgia, made it my happy home. I visited many a merry scene. It's been no pleasant doom. None has such charms as
When I weave on the computer loom, I do all of the usual weaving work, but there are no treadles. The computer lifts the correct combination of harnesses each time I press an electric pedal.
moments when I saw sweet Pattie Lamb. I watched her taper fingers as they danced along the wall, and shot the little shuttle as though it could not be caught. A quill would soon be empty, as you may well presume. It was a happy sight to see sweet Pattie at the loom. I cannot help from thinking, no matter what I do, of the happy moments when I saw sweet Pattie at the loom. A naughty thread perchance would break, but not a word she'd say, but gently tie a little knot and put it through the sleigh. The shuttle necks would drop, and with color her face would bloom. It sure was a bewitching sight, sweet Pattie at the loom. I cannot help from thinking, no matter what I do, of the happy moments when I saw sweet Pattie at the loom.
The most exciting part of weaving is cutting the cloth off the loom, the moment of truth. These are 2 10-cell shawls coming off of the spring loom. Here, 3 cotton and silk scarves are being taken off of the Toyka computer loom. All hand-woven pieces require finishing. For my pieces, that usually means a hem or a twisted fringe. For this project, each fringe bout has 8 threads in it. I count out the 8 threads and divide it into 2 groups of 4. I use a battery-powered fringer to twist each of the 2 groups in one direction. Then I twist them in the other direction by hand, and I tie a knot in the end.
oceans flowing to the sea, by many a flower and spreading tree, there lives a lad, the lad for me. He is a gallant weaver. Oh, I had wooers 8 or 9. They gave me rings and ribbons fine, and I feared 'twould break this heart of mine, and I gave it to the weaver. My daddy signed my dowry band to give the lad that has the land.
All hand wovens will be wet finished. This involves washing by hand or in the machine. When dried, most pieces will be pressed, and finally a label will be sewn on and a hang tag attached. The last step involves documenting my project. I include calculations, weaving drafts, final notes about weaving the project, and any yarn samples, photographs, and woven samples. I post photos of my work to my website, Instagram, and Facebook. I post videos to YouTube occasionally. At last, many hours or days later, I have a completed project.
Whirl my spool, go whirling, whirling. Spin the long white woolen thread. Heavy threads and fine go twirling for our comfort, house and bed. Heavy threads and fine go twirling for our comfort, house and bed. My small deep crown has no bridges. His cold cries night and day. Gabrielle wears but rags and stitches, goes out barefoot, work or play. Gabrielle wears but rags and stitches.
If you're interested in weaving, consider joining the Triangle Weavers Guild. Go to the website at www.triangleweavers.org. I hope you'll visit my website at www.lambontheloom.com.
Not a rope nor a scrap of fur. Everything we need is lacking. Poor like this we never were. Everything we need is lacking. Poor like this we never were. As a bride I came a-weaving, carpets downy like doves' wings, One by one I have seen them leaving, rugs and garments, all my things. One by one